Alright guys, let's do this again.
Now it's recording you.
So how do I flip it?
You just turned it on.
But it's recording me.
Yeah.
One of the most technical tricks a writer can add to their library is actually a trick that seems really simple: a big spin. Big spins are deceitful, they don't require a lot of power to attempt, but they test your board familiarity in the way that you kick them and how you land them. But the biggest reason writers procrastinate on learning big spins is because flip tricks just look cooler. We all know that one guy who can ARS, overload, and rodeo, but struggles to even do something as simple as a 180 shove. I'm here to spread the anti-zoomer propaganda. Learn how to shove it and big spin before you get too far into flip trick brain rot. You'll learn necessary skills you'll need to improve comfortability with the wave itself, your board, and it will help you score big at competitions. Alright y'all, bear with me. This is going to be a lot of information. A big spin is a spinning trick that combines a drop knee spin with a shove it. If you can't land a shove it 9 times out of 10, you probably are not ready to big spin. If y'all really want a shove it tutorial, I might make one in the future, but for now you can check out this video from Jonathan Root, who breaks down the trick really well, or continue watching since a lot of these tips can apply to shove its too. Now, back to the big spins. Big spins only rotate around the Z axis, but that's really what they specialize in. There are a lot of different types of big spins. First, there are big spins that are unique based on the direction you kick them. A front side big spin is the one most writers have seen. They are defined as a spin trick where the rider kicks the board forward with their back leg while spinning their body in the same direction the board spins. You can also think of these as kicking the board counterclockwise for a regular stance rider, or kicking the board clockwise for goofy stance riders. There's also the backside big spin, which is opposite to a frontside big spin. They're more defined as a spin trick where the rider kicks the board behind them with their back leg while spinning their body in the same direction as the board spins. You can also think of these as kicking the board clockwise for regular stance riders or counterclockwise for goofy stance riders. Then there are big spin variations that tweak the level of spinning your body does compared to your board. So we have just a regular big spin. The board spins 360 degrees while your body spins 180 degrees. Then there's the bigger spin, or the 540 big spin. The board spins 540 degrees while your body spins 180 degrees. Lastly, you have the gazelle spin. The board spins 540 degrees while your body spins 360 degrees. These are a lot easier to differentiate when you're looking at like stand-up riders on the FlowRider or skateboarders, because their 360s themselves are a lot slower typically than ours, and so you really see when they land the board 180 degrees. Lastly, there are big spins that differ depending on where you're facing when traveling the wave. These are typically used more in stand-up flowboarding and skateboarding tricks, but do technically exist in bodyboarding. So there's the fakie big spin, which is where the shove it part of a big spin is thrown when the tail of the board is facing more towards the nozzle, or it's thrown at the end of a big spin. Then you have the nollie big spin. It's the same thing as a fakie big spin, but you're in your switch stance. So switch, but you're either got your tail of the board pointing towards the nozzle, or you're throwing it at the end of a spin. Most riders do these on like backside big spins, but you could technically do these both frontside as well. The one that I kind of think of the most is Daniel Trapchek. A couple years ago when he was doing these, it was more of a fakie big spin. He does now still follow through with it and is more of a regular big spin. But I'll throw some clips up of him doing it a couple years ago so you can kind of see that big 540 big spin that was fakie 540. So those were all just how they're named and defined by the Wikipedia skateboard shove-its page. The only thing I defined myself were those fakie and nollie big spins, since for some reason they weren't on Wikipedia. You might know these tricks as different names, and that's okay. This is really just to help you understand how a big spin can be thrown differently, and so that way you can add a little bit of variety. If you're having trouble with a regular big spin, try a fakie big spin. If you're having trouble with the front side big spin, try a backside big spin. People just learn these differently and they're more comfortable with throwing them in different ways, even like when they're in switch or whatnot. So try it out. We're going to break this trick down into a 3-step process again, takeoff, flight, and landing. But I want to preface by saying this. There's not too much nuance in a DK roll or rodeo. How I throw a DK roll is probably pretty similar to how most other riders throw one as well. You might jump higher than me, but you probably do the same rotation. Shove it tricks are different. The size of your board, your height, your weight, and your ride style will all affect how your board spins and pops. Don't get me wrong, anyone can throw and land a big spin, but I will not be able to tell you how fast you need to spin, how hard you need to kick, or even which leg you should use to kick. I'll give you tips that help me personally, but you might need to play around a bit to see if they help you out or not. You can throw this trick anywhere on the wave, but most riders tend to feel most comfortable doing shove-its around the transition point of the wave. I do believe it's more important to understand the idea of dead pointing though, than where to throw the actual shove-it part of a big spin. Dead pointing is a term that comes from like a basic physics concept. Say you throw a baseball straight up into the air. The ball will keep flying up while gravity pulls down on the ball. At the peak of the ball's flight, the ball will stop moving just for an instant before it starts to descend. And you've felt this feeling before. When jumping straight up, or when riding a roller coaster, and every time you ride a FlowRider, the wave pushes you up the back of the wave until gravity pulls you down the slope. Or gravity and momentum propel you towards the nozzles until water pressure from the pumps pushes you back up the wave again, and then the cycle repeats. This is when I would suggest trying to start the spin for a big spin, and I would also refrain from prefacing a big spin with a 360. Lots of bodyboarders do this. It really originated from riders, including myself, attempting 540 big spins to help assist in getting enough momentum for the rider's board and body to spin the full amounts, since we didn't really have any skate trucks to pivot off of and store energy. And since a regular big spin doesn't really need that much power and energy, I believe it's more important to understand how to generate it naturally first, so you actually learn how to kick the board yourself. Alright y'all, I told y'all this was going to be a lot. So let's start the scene from the top. Position yourself around here towards the front of the wave. Let the wave start to push you back. And right before you feel gravity start to stop you and you're going to hit that dead point, pump down, start your spin, and kick the board with one or both of your legs in the same direction that you're spinning while keeping your core tight. If you have pumped and kicked correctly, the board should be completely out of the water and you should be completely off the board, creating a 3-tier effect. Keep your core tight the whole time you're in the air and you can maintain your momentum. Catch the board with your back leg, followed by your front foot, and maintain the balance and momentum after catching it to finish out your spin. Either ride it out or gear up for your next trick if you're going for a combo. If you're still having trouble with big spins, here's some extra thoughts and tips that I found to help me. I really just didn't have a place to put this in the script beforehand that felt natural, so just gonna put them here. Alright, so you can't kick the board hard enough to get it to complete the rotation. I find even with a pre-spin, it can still be hard to kick and get the board to complete the rotation of 540 big spins and gazelle spins. So you have two solutions. Either spin the shove it faster, or stay in the air above your board longer so the board can get all the way around. Some of you might have noticed that when I do my 540 big spins, I shift my back foot further towards the back side of the board to get a little bit more leverage on it. This means that I can use less effort to apply more force on the board and get it to spin faster. If you would rather keep your stance the same, or you are moving your back leg already to the position above, you can increase the air time you have by tucking in your knees towards your stomach after you jump off the board. This lengthens the time that your legs are out of contact with your board, giving it more time to spin in the air before you catch it. My last tip is if you're having trouble throwing a big spin near the nozzle or towards the back of the wave, you need to adjust your center of mass. Remember that the power level of the wave decreases the farther away from the nozzles you get. So if you want to big spin near the nozzle, you probably need to start the spin leaning farther back and kick the board forward towards the nozzle to keep it under you. In this case, kicking the board more with your back leg for front side big spins or your front leg for back side big spins also might help. If you want to big spin near the back of the wave, you'll probably need to start the spin leaning farther forward and kick the board towards the back of the wave to keep it under you. Kicking the board more in this case with your front leg for front side big spins or your back leg for back side big spins also might help. As usual, once you get comfortable with your big spins, try harder ones like 540 big spin, gazelle spin, or try to link them with other tricks as a combo.
All right, what do you rate it? 10. 10 of 10. How do you think you did, Nate? You're a pro now.
1.